Where on earth is that woman? I thought she was getting the kids ready for school today. Damn it, the kids aren't awake yet, fed, dressed, or prepared for school, and I have to leave. Emma. Where are you? No response. Damn, she's not here. I went up to her bedroom and sure enough, it was empty. She hadn't returned home. Again. This has to stop. So, you're probably wondering, what's going on? Where is the mother? Why doesn't the father know her whereabouts? Why hasn't she come home? Those are some of the questions, I suppose. I have questions too. Like, how did my life end up like this? You see, the answer isn't simple. It unfolded over about 2 years, and now my life and our marriage have turned into a mess. A mess I need to sort out quickly. I have to fix this for the sake of my daughters. I have twin girls, 6 years old, in grade 1. They're adorable blondes who mean the world to me. The mother of those twin girls used to mean the world to me too. Used to. Not so much anymore. She has other priorities now. She has a boyfriend. Yet, she still thinks she's my wife and considers this house her home. She spends little time here. Last week, she spent 2 nights. When she is here, she sleeps in a separate bedroom. I avoid sharing a bed with her if I can help it. I can't even look at her anymore, not since she's almost 9 months pregnant. Her boyfriend is the father of the baby she's carrying. She's oddly proud of that fact. Emma works as a legal secretary at a major law firm. One of the lawyers there, Gerald Evans, is her boyfriend and the father of her baby. Evans is highly successful, earns a significant amount, and has a wife and 3 children of his own. As for me, I'm John Stewart, 32 years old, a chartered accountant specializing in corporate audits and operational improvements for profitability. It's not the most thrilling work to most, but I find it fascinating. And I'm well compensated for it. Last year, I earned just over $150,000 with a 20% bonus on top. Emma also earns well, pulling in nearly $70,000 a year as a legal secretary with a decent bonus. We live in a nice suburban house with 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a small pool in the backyard. The mortgage is manageable and will be paid off in 6 years. I drive a Subaru Outback, and Emma has a VW Passat that I bought used for her 3 years ago. We used to live a good life. That was until about 2 years ago. Now? Well, how do I describe my life? It's different. My wife is no longer really my wife. She spends most of her non-working hours at her lover's apartment, a man named Evans she started seeing about 2 years ago. It began with her working extra hours, coming home late, and then progressed to evening and weekend work, and eventually overnight trips under the guise of meeting clients. Eventually, it became painfully obvious. She even began telling me not to wait up, and eventually started spending entire nights away from home. I had known for a long time about her affair with Evans. She didn't hide it well. I sought advice from a divorce lawyer, hoping for a way out. Instead of advice, I received a stark warning: I would likely get the short end of the stick in the divorce. Emma would probably get custody of our daughters and thus the house. I would be financially drained, supporting everyone for years to come. Meanwhile, Emma could continue her affair without consequences. It felt incredibly unfair, but the law prioritizes division of assets favoring the custodial parent, regardless of who caused the marriage to break down. Judges are inclined to expedite cases rather than delve into nuances of fairness. Desperate, I asked my lawyer how I could come out ahead. The answer was disheartening: there was no winning, only minimizing the damage. I was advised to do nothing and pretend everything was normal with my wife. As if I could stomach that. Leaving the lawyer's office, I felt numb and lost. What the hell was I going to do? I returned to work and sat in a daze for the rest of the day. When I came home that night, Emma greeted me as if everything was fine, cooking dinner and acting like her former loving self. She kissed me at the door, poured me wine, and our daughters were happily playing nearby. It felt like a farce, a cruel joke. After dinner, when the girls were in bed, she finally dropped the bombshell. She was pregnant with Evan's baby. She professed her love for him and assured me she wasn't leaving. "We have a family, and now it's going to get bigger," she said, trying to reassure me. Damn it. I had hoped the cheating woman would at least have the decency to leave and live with her lover boy. "So, how do you plan to handle this baby?" I asked, trying to wrap my head around the situation. "Well, the same way we dealt with it when I was pregnant with the girls," Emma replied, her expression suggesting she found my question strange. "I see," I said, still bewildered. "So let me get this straight. You're pregnant by another man, and you expect this child to just seamlessly become part of our family? Am I understanding that correctly?" "Of course, honey. Why wouldn't this child be part of our family?" Emma responded, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the situation. Did she think I was a fool? Did she expect me to accept this child as my own without question? I couldn't believe it. Not after everything that had happened. Really? Maybe it has something to do with your ongoing affair with Evans. Maybe it's because you're hardly ever here with us. Maybe it's because you spend 3 nights a week and nearly every weekend with him. Maybe it's because you've ignored our daughters for the past year while you've been with Evans. Maybe it's because our marriage has been anything but normal for almost 2 years. I shouted, frustration boiling over, my face flushed with anger. "Honey, calm down," Emma said dismissively. "Just because I haven't allowed you inside me since Gerald and I got together, remember you have full access to my mouth and ass whenever you want." It was true. I made sure Emma pleasured me orally whenever she was around, and I frequently took her anally. But that was a poor substitute for the intimacy we once shared. Emma had decided that vaginal sex was reserved exclusively for Evans, believing it was only fair since she loved him. For 6 years, I had that privilege. Now, it was denied to me. While I settled for what little Emma offered, Evans got her love and her body. I got what was left and her ass. Despite everything, I had 2 wonderful daughters, and I was determined to protect them. Over the next 7 months, Emma continued spending most of her time at Evans' apartment. Occasionally, she would come home, and during those times, I took what little opportunity one had to reclaim some semblance of control. I demanded she satisfy me orally and anally, a meager form of retaliation for the betrayal I felt. Emma wanted me to accompany her to her prenatal appointments. I refused. Gerald Evans, the father of her baby, should be the one by her side. In Emma's confused state of mind, she seemed to expect that I would just accept and raise this child as my own. That was not going to happen. Things took a turn for the worse when Emma completely forgot about our daughter's birthday. It was clear to me that Emma's priorities were completely skewed. Despite my efforts to remind her and involve her in planning the party, she showed no concern for her family. This disregard for her own daughters was the final straw for me. I wanted Emma out of my life as soon as possible. When Emma went into labor, she happened to be at home. I reluctantly went with her to the hospital. The delivery room staff were visibly surprised when the baby was born, a biracial child to 2 white parents. It was a stark revelation of Emma's infidelity, evident to everyone in the room. Once Emma and the baby were settled in a hospital room, I left. I needed to go home and tell my daughters about their new half-brother. Explaining that their brother's father was not me would be delicate. I also made a plan to inform Gerald Evans' wife about her husband's new fatherhood and their children's new sibling. Before leaving the hospital, I completed the birth certificate paperwork, listing Emma as the mother and Gerald Evans as the father. The nurse took the form, thanked me, and then called after me, addressing me as Mr. Evans. I corrected her firmly, stating my name was John Stewart and redirecting her inquiries about Mr. Evans to Emma. Her surprise was evident as I walked away. After returning home, I called Gerald Evans to deliver the news. He was now a father. I also inquired about where he wanted me to send all of Emma's belongings and personal items. There was silence on the other end of the line. Hello, Mr. Evans, are you still there? Emma is at General Hospital in the maternity ward, room 412. I'm sure she's eager for you to meet your new son, I said, trying to maintain composure despite the tension. Evans responded less than warmly, Who the hell is this and what do you want? I'm John Stewart, Emma's husband, I explained calmly. You work with her and have been involved with her for over 2 years. You got her pregnant. Well, she just gave birth. It's your son. Another pause followed on the line. So, Mr. Evans, I need to know your plans for Emma and your son. I have things I need to take care of, and for that to happen, I need to understand what you intend to do, I pressed on. More silence ensued. Fine. I suppose I'll call your wife to find out from her what your plan is. Goodbye, I said, preparing to end the call. Wait. Just wait. Evans shouted, clearly flustered. What am I waiting for, Mr. Evans? I asked, maintaining a steady tone. Look, I have a family. I'm not leaving my wife and kids for Emma and the kid, Evans replied defensively. So, what are your intentions then? I probed. I don't know right now. I'll have to call you back, Evans conceded. Just so you're aware, I've instructed my lawyer to start divorce proceedings against Emma and to name you as a co-defendant for alienation of affection. I'm also pursuing legal action to seek compensation for the loss of family income and the maternal care Emma would have provided to my daughters until they turned 21, I informed him firmly. Evans seemed rattled. Wait. What do you want from me? I paused, calculating my next move carefully. What I want, Mr. Evans, is for you to take Emma and your son out of my house. I want them gone as soon as possible. Do you understand? What do you expect me to do? Evans asked, sounding uncertain. You got her pregnant, now take responsibility for her. It's that simple. She's no longer my wife, at least not after the divorce. What you do with her and your child afterward is your concern, not mine, I stated firmly, leaving no room for negotiation. I'm not giving you an out here. Just get your girlfriend and your child out of my house and out of my life, I concluded, ending the call. 10 minutes later, Evans called back, but I let it go to voicemail. 2 days later, a taxi pulled up outside our house, and Emma stepped out carrying her newborn son. She was clearly upset with me. John, where have you been? I had to take a cab home with our son. Why didn't you come to the hospital to get us? Emma demanded, her frustration evident. I stood just inside the doorway and didn't move to take the baby from her or assist in any way. This child wasn't mine, it belonged to Emma and her lover. My daughters would soon return from school, excited to meet their new half-brother. They'd undoubtedly have questions about why he looked so different, dark-skinned compared to their fair blonde hair. Honey, could you take the baby, please? Emma asked, assuming I would act as a father to this child as I did with our daughters. No. You should call Gerald Evans, your lover, to come and take care of him. Actually, I think you should go live with him. Let me start packing a few things for you, I replied calmly. I fetched a large suitcase from the garage, brought it inside, and started packing. About an hour later, I returned downstairs with the suitcase packed and placed it by the door. Okay, it's ready whenever you are, I announced. Emma tried to ignore both me and the suitcase, focusing instead on her baby. But I wasn't backing down. Where should I send the rest of your belongings, Emma? I asked firmly. What are you talking about, John? And why is that suitcase by the door? Emma countered, clearly bewildered. I'm talking about you and your decision to get pregnant by your lover. I'm talking about how you've stopped being my wife. I'm talking about divorce. I'm telling you to get your things and get out of this house, now. Take your kid with you. I shouted at her, frustration boiling over. I'm not leaving. I'm your wife, and this child is ours. You may not have contributed genetically, but you're his father, Emma insisted defiantly. This wasn't going as smoothly as I'd hoped. It was time for a decisive move. Right on cue, the school bus arrived, dropping off my daughters. I took their hands and led them toward the house, informing them that their mother had a surprise for them. They were already aware she was expecting a baby and were eager to meet their new sibling. The girls rushed inside, delighted to meet their half-brother. They noticed his different features, particularly his darker skin tone. "Mommy, why is he so dark?" "You, Daddy, and us are all very light," one of my daughters asked innocently. Emma hesitated, so I stepped in. "Well, girls, Mommy has a boyfriend besides me who is the father of your half-brother." The girls looked puzzled. "Mommy likes her boyfriend so much that she wanted to have a baby with him. He's a black man she works with, which is why your brother has dark skin." I let that sink in for a moment. "Mommy and her baby might go live with her boyfriend," I added, preparing them for the possibility. They looked at me curiously. "Are we going to live with her boyfriend too, Daddy?" "No, girls, the two of you are going to live right here with me. We are not moving," I assured my daughters firmly. Relief washed over their faces visibly. They had grown accustomed to their mother's absence over the past 2 years. During that time, I had essentially been a single father to them. It took a couple of days to persuade Emma and her lover that it was best for everyone if Emma and her baby moved to the apartment she shared with Evans. The tipping point came when I gave Evans an ultimatum: 2 hours to get Emma out, or my next call would be to Mrs. Evans. That threat got things moving swiftly. Emma reluctantly packed a few additional belongings, along with the suitcase I had filled, and drove herself and her child to Evans' place. Throughout the packing, Emma tried to remind me of her love and her vision of growing old together and raising our family. In her misguided fantasies, she failed to grasp that I had no intention of raising another man's child willingly. I had my own plans. During the months when Emma was entangled with Gerald Evans, I had been focused on rebuilding my life. I knew my marriage was over, and I needed to ensure I wasn't left destitute while Emma lived her new life with Evans. When she got pregnant by him, it provided the perfect leverage I needed. A bit about me: I'm not perfect, but I'm far from a loser. I stand at 5 feet 11 inches, weigh about 165 pounds, and I stay fit with running and cycling. Golf doesn't interest me. I prefer activities that let me work up a sweat and clear my mind. Lately, I had been exercising intensely to manage my frustrations. Fortunately, I had reliable babysitters nearby for my girls and supportive neighbors who offered help, knowing Emma had all but abandoned us. My cycling group introduced me to Andrea, and we began dating. Initially cautious about getting involved in my marital turmoil, Andrea understood when I shared my plan and Emma's pregnancy. She saw that the end of my marriage was inevitable. Andrea had spent several nights at my place, met my girls, and joined us on outings together. She's a grade 4 teacher, divorced with no children of her own yet. My daughters took an instant liking to her, seeing more of Andrea in the last few months than they had of their own mother. When it was time to serve divorce papers, Emma received hers at the Love Nest, while Evans got served at his home, where his wife was present to receive them. Tensions reportedly ran high in the Evans household afterward, with Mrs. Evans aggressively pursuing legal action against her husband. I pursued a lawsuit against Evans for just over $1.75 million, covering lost family income, increased costs from not having a wife, and potential contributions Emma might make towards our daughter's university expenses. The baby wasn't mentioned in the lawsuit as it seemed irrelevant. Emma called me repeatedly, pleading that it was all a misunderstanding and expressing a desire to return home. She claimed her affair with Evans was never meant to be long-term, just a phase. When I asked if Evans was keeping the baby, she dodged the question. To prevent any surprises, I changed all the locks and programmed a new garage code for the house. My lawyer informed me that Evans' lawyer wanted to discuss a settlement. In the meeting, Evans offered $50,000 to drop the lawsuit and take Emma back. When asked about keeping the baby, Evans remained silent, prompting his lawyer to deflect with a statement about the importance of mother-child bonds. Without hesitation, I asserted, I'm not willing to raise a child that isn't mine. If Evans fathered the child, he can keep it along with its mother. My lawyer smirked at Evans' lawyer, signaling a clear stance. Negotiations continued for months until Evans settled for $250,000 to resolve the matter. The divorce from Emma was finalized, granting me full custody of my daughters with generous visitation rights for Emma. Despite everything, I knew she loved our girls, and they reciprocated in their own way. Over time, my daughters grew even closer to Andrea, and we eventually got engaged. Around the same time, we learned Andrea was pregnant. With the proceeds from the lawsuit, we upgraded to a slightly larger home and ensured a secure financial future, including a good education for all our children. Emma and Evans eventually ended their affair, largely due to pressure from Mrs. Evans, who wielded significant influence in the community. Her threats ensured Evans would be more compliant in the future. Emma continued working at the law firm, as did Evans. A couple of months after our divorce was finalized, I unexpectedly ran into Emma downtown. We decided to have coffee and talk, and I finally posed a question that had been on my mind. Why? Why did she feel the need to have an affair? Was I that inadequate as a husband, or was she that unhappy as a wife? Her answers this time were more candid. She admitted her attraction to black men and confessed to a long-held fetish that Evans fulfilled. She believed she was in love with him and justified having his child as the right decision. Emma and her son lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. She saw our daughters occasionally, taking them out with their half-brother, whom they found adorable and enjoyed spending time with. Meanwhile, Andrea and I purchased a cottage by a lake, embarking on a renovation project and planning to spend summers there. Our own daughter was born during this time. Evans emerged from the ordeal relatively unscathed financially, but likely chastened by the consequences of his actions. I'd like to think my response exacted some form of revenge, but truthfully, my focus was on moving forward positively with my daughters and Andrea. Was it a happy ending? For me, yes. For Emma, uncertain. For Evans, it came with a financial cost he could absorb. It underscored the reality that life rarely presents ultimate winners or losers, only those who endure and rebuild. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Write your opinion in the comments. Remember, you're writing a story too, and it's up to you whether it's a good one or not.